How's this for video? Is it bright enough? Let me take that off. I want to talk to you about my experience at, well, I'll tell you about my hospital in-stay at the mental hospital first. So, anyways, you go in there, you go through triage, and then after triage, you wait 3 or 4 hours, sometimes less, depending on how safe you are, as they say. They ask you about all the medications you're taking, and they don't really care about that later, but they document that. And they take you into a back room on the right side in the hospital. You stay in this little tiny area. There's usually at least 3 or 4 other people that are there and have been there for hours. The cleaners never seem to ever sweep in there or pick up the mess all over. There's mess all over the floor and cups of drinks everywhere, snot rags. A lot of people looked really doped up there with blankets wrapped all over them, laying down in the chairs, sleeping because they've been there for 6 to 8 hours, sometimes up to 12 hours before they even move you to the next location. I was there several times, but only a few times where I felt I needed to be admitted, or one time when I was forced to be admitted from my own doctor, whom I supposedly was supposed to trust, who was supposed to be taking care of me and caring about my best interests. But anyway, they tell you to trust your doctors. Follow your instincts first. Don't just do whatever your doctors say, unless they force you like she did to me. Anyway, so when you're back there, there's 2 security guards that pay attention to every move you make. So if you leave or try to leave, they don't let you go, without usually a problem, or they're wondering where you are, basically. If after about, let's see, I was there for probably 8 to 10 hours. And in that period of time, I saw a nurse who basically said, "Why are you here?" In a back room with 2 chairs, nothing on the walls, very cold looking in the rooms. There's usually somebody locked up in a locked up like cell. It basically was like a cell, and they'll be in there screaming and kicking and hitting the walls and the doors and the windows, and it's all shatterproof and everything else. You can hear them screaming. A lot of times they're put in there because they're drunk, or because they've had some kind of offense, I guess, or something, or they're high. I don't know. They're out of control, or there's a chance that there's going to be harm to someone else or themselves. So they keep them in that room. Every once in a while, they'll lock them up. They'll enforce or force medications, injections into them to force them to sleep. Sometimes I have seen them actually tie patients down onto the beds, the door wide open, and somebody like me in a room next door, being terrified by, hearing them talk to them like they're criminals or prisoners. Maybe they were. I mean, I certainly didn't know their background, but that's how they were being treated. Tied down, told to shut up, or else they're going to, stick them with the needles. Things like that. Imagine if they were handcuffed to the beds, that there's a reason they probably did come from a prison, so they treat people like that differently. I don't know. I saw that kind of thing happen. The room was usually dark in that area, very cold. You can ask for food, and they'll give you food if you've been there for hours. And, I can kind of come and go as I please, sneak out or whatever if I want to, until after you see the psychiatrist and the doctor. They usually have both come in, and then once you see both of them, then they tell you to change into some paper pajamas. Usually this is about 12 hours later. They force you to go into a bathroom and take off all your clothes, take off all your jewelry, earrings, everything, like you're going into a prison if you're going to stay into the mental hospital. They shove it all into a bag, probably the same way like they do in a prison. Security guards are there, you got your privacy taken, everything off, but you're not allowed to be in the bathroom with the door closed after that for more than 2 minutes, and they'll knock on the door constantly to make sure that you're not doing anything to harm yourself or whatever. Very strict. So they shove everything into a bag, and they take the bag away. They take your purse, all your belongings. I wasn't even allowed to wear a cross around my neck or keep my rosary beads. Nothing. They took everything away. Your phone, and then you sit there after that for probably another. Well, I sat there for another 6 to 12 hours after that before I finally, there was a bed available, but it wasn't a bed. They made a bed into a couch, and they made me sleep in that, right on the ground almost. It was very uncomfortable, and I had to stay there for like 2 days. And then they'll bring you meals. Sometimes the nurses will come in and interrogate you and ask you why you're there, give you a hard time, but for the most part, your basic needs are met. You're in a warm room, there's a bathroom, there's 2 bathrooms, and in this back room, it kind of looks like cells, so it's like one here, room here, room here, room here, and like a square all the way around, so there's like 3 beds, another 2 beds like that. So there's, I don't know, like 8 or 10 beds around in like an L. And there's like a couch area, and then there's 2 exits that you can't get out at all. Like there's no doorknobs on the inside in there. You're not allowed to wander the whole area there. You have to stay in your little cubicle, in your little bed space for sometimes 2 to 3 days even before they move you to the main mental hospital side. You're basically waiting for a bed to open up. And so after about 12 hours of that, you start going insane and crazy because you can't interact with the other people, really. You're not allowed to make a lot of noise or talk. You have to stay in your bed. They try and make you stay in your bed for the whole time, day and night, hour after hour. There's a radio, but it's very, very quiet. You hardly see it at all. You hear it at all. They could put a TV in there and couches where you could come out and sit, and while you're waiting, but they don't have that either. And so they force you to stay into this tiny little room for like hour after hour after hour after hour. And they medicate you in the evenings because they want you to sleep. It's really kind of shitty. And so I stayed in there for about 2 or 3 days. There was a guy that, would make messes. He'd smear crap all over the floor, and he'd defecate, in his little cubicle area there. He'd pee on his sheets just to get attention, things like that. You'd get all kinds of different kinds of crazy people in there. You never knew anything about their histories or whatever. Anyways, you can't go anywhere without being escorted by security guards. It's just crazy. That's even when you volunteer for help. They don't look at you any different than somebody who has a record, or somebody who is actually crazy, they don't care about who you are as a person. You're basically considered, I don't know, a number, a patient with with mental illness. They don't seem to differentiate anything. There's no psychiatrists or counselors or padres or anybody that comes in those 2 days to come and console you or talk to you or ask if there's anything that you need. None of that happens in that period of time. It's a very dark space, dark place, and you go crazy in your mind because you don't have TV to watch, you don't have your phone to look at, you don't have any communications, you don't have friends or family around you. It's just really, it's like living in hell, and that's what they want because they don't want you to come back. Anyway, then 2 or 3 days go by, and then a bed will open up and it'll be your turn, and they do it in order. Whoever comes first goes first, so you wait your turn. The meals come before I get to that, the meals come on a tray. You get 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, and supper. Breakfast is usually a little box of cereal. You get a juice, you get a tea or a coffee, you get, a little carton of milk to pour in to have your cereal, and there'll be like some kind of bread or a bun or something on the side. That's your breakfast. Lunchtime is usually a soup, and then you'll have a sandwich, and you've got your milk and your juice again, and a dessert. Like there's usually a cookie or piece of cake or fruit cocktail or something like that. And then, they take it away as soon as you're done, so they watch to make sure that you're eating enough. If they pay attention to that, and they'll write it down. If you're not eating, they'll force you to eat, like shit like that, right? Then they take your tray away, and then there's absolutely nothing for hours. So you just sleep because there's nothing else to do. It's very dark in there, because they want you to be sleeping all the time, and they don't want any noise or anything. Then at supper time, they come in and they have the little round circle thing like in the hospitals. And you open that up and you'll have some potato or rice and a vegetable and your meat, and then you'll have a bun, and then you'll have a coffee or a tea, and then you'll have a juice, and you'll have your milk and some kind of dessert. And you get that, 3 times, and then you have your medication at night to go to bed. You can go to the bathroom. That's the only break you get to get out of your cubicle or your little tiny room. You go into that bathroom, and you have to go back to your area again. I guess it's a safety thing. I don't fucking know. So then that happens. So the 2 or 3 days have gone by, but you have no concept of time because they have no clocks or anything. They don't want you to know what time it is. They don't want you counting the clock. And then finally the day comes, whether it's day or night. Sometimes they'll send you there at midnight into the main hospital area where all of the mental patients are, in that big wing. And they moved me to a smaller area first where there was less patients, I guess, so I could get used to that. And I was escorted by 2 security guards so that if I tried to run or do anything, they would handcuffed me, or who knows, maybe they would have attacked me with a stick. You had to do exactly what they said. They escorted me down into the basement, and into this area on the far left. Went down in an elevator down to the basement, so it was really quite eerie and cold down there. And then we walked to this area, and they opened this door, and I saw that there was no doorknobs on the other side, and then I started getting really afraid. Then we went in, and they closed the door, and the security guards left. They dropped my bag of all my stuff, just dropped it on the ground. And then these nurses come out really cold like, and they just look at you and take you to your room or your bunk or whatever the hell you want to call it, and then they just walk away. They shove all your stuff in a locker, so you have to ask permission if you want to take anything out of your locker at any time. And they don't allow any phone access, your cell phone or anything like that of any nature. No pictures to be taken, nothing like that back there. So you have a bed, and a little dresser and a little locker, and that's all you have to call your own. You can shower there, but the showers are like a big cement floor with hoses, like two of them on both sides, and it's a kind of like a square room or whatever. The main ones in the hall, and then there's ones in a bedroom if you have like 4 or 5 people in a room. Some of them have showers on the inside there, but it's the same kind of concept. And there's also a bathroom in there. If you close the door at all for the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, you're on 24-hour watch. So they're watching and checking on you every hour. They're watching you every minute of every hour. But every hour they're physically actually coming in and they actually mark in their book, a check, are you so and so? And then they check it off. They've seen you, that you're still there, and then they disappear back into their little nurse's station again, which is an area they don't like to be bothered. They don't like you to knock on the door to ask for anything. They just sit there. They don't even do anything. I don't even know what the hell they do, but do a whole lot of sitting there and a whole lot of nothing, kind of like the security guards do, I guess. They don't like to be bothered. It took me about 2 hours to finally get a towel from somebody so I could have a shower. And you're not given a bar of soap, you're not given a toothbrush, you're not given toothpaste, nothing. And when I was in there, I didn't know I was going to be staying, so I didn't have all the things that I needed in order to keep myself clean. They don't give you deodorant, so I didn't have any deodorant either. So I only had one set of clothing. So staying, a lot of times if you're bigger, it's hard to find a pair of those pajamas that fit properly. And so they were very tight and uncomfortable. And they smelled because they were made of paper. So, you'd smell them up within an hour or two. So everybody in there would really smell bad until they got back into their civilians again. And then you had to wait your turn, but you were allowed to do laundry when it was opened or when it was available, blah, blah, fucking blah. Alright, I'll let you go and I'll make another video. Bye.